Look in my eyes, what do you see? CM Punk is World Heavyweight Champion! Welcome everybody to BunkaMania, Bunkazilla's official pro wrestling discussion podcast. I am Jeremy Graves, and joining me as per usual, as we go on a journey through the whimsical world, quite frankly a whimsical world this weekend, of what was AEW's Double or Nothing. It is the one and only Mr. Iain Boulton, the Dekker Dane himself. Good sir, how are you doing today?
I am doing delightfully well, and it's all about the whimsy of Las Vegas, the whimsy of Double or Nothing. I like that word, whimsy. I'm feeling a bit whimsy.
Do you know what? It is certainly a time to be a fan of pro wrestling. Like this, to put this out there from the outset, everybody, before we do some housekeeping. The primary focus... Oh, a giant fly just flew by my face if you're watching the video version on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. You know what? I'll do housekeeping now. Why not? Welcome on YouTube. That is where we are recording and broadcasting live tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. If you're in the chat, please do share your thoughts as we go along the program. And you never know, your comments may get read out during the show. Hey, there you go. And if you are enjoying this stream, why not give us a thumbs up? And if you feel so inclined, why not subscribe to the Bunkazilla YouTube channel? Then you'll get notifications of when new videos are available. You can also check out the archives of previous Bunkazilla and BunkaMania content as well, be it in complete form or sometimes in clip form as well. Also, big shout out to our audio-only podcast listeners. We know you're out there. If you are joining us via the likes of Spotify, Amazon, Google, you choose your platform of choice, search for BunkaMania. You will more than flippin' likely find us on that platform. And if you are listening to the audio-only version, why not tell a friend about us? We would really appreciate it. And thank you very much once again for listening to our program. So good sir, as I was about to say before I cut myself off, which is quite an interesting concept in and of itself, today we are primarily focusing on the AEW weekender that was Double or Nothing. To say it is quite a newsworthy week, quite a newsworthy show, weekend, week, however you want to phrase it, bit of an understatement. A lot has happened. The show itself was really freaking long, but did we both enjoy it? You guys will find out tonight as we delve into Double or Nothing weekend. But good sir, we need to touch on a couple of things before Double or Nothing. Because
Okay.
who'd have thunk that before Double or Nothing, it would have been as newsworthy as it was? Because one of the big talking points going into the show before Saturday hit was the fact that come the end of Rampage, if you include the match on the buy-in, 13 matches were announced for Double or Nothing. What did you think about this when you heard this?
Oh, it's like old WrestleMania cards all over again. It's like, oh no. I mean, we will touch on it a little bit in the review, but a little heads up. I generally enjoyed the show. My big mark against it is it's too long. It's as much as 5 hours of wrestling can be great fun when everything is really paced well. I mean, the great comparison to it would probably be All Out last year, because All Out was like nearly 5 hours, but that seemed an absolute joy to watch from start to finish. Whereas with Double or Nothing, there are some very, very good matches. There are some amazing matches. And then there are some matches where you really didn't need to put them on the show, to be honest. It's like, no disrespect to the talent involved. It's like, it was a very stacked card. I appreciate there are only kind of 4 pay-per-views for AEW every year. So you want to put as much talent in as possible, but there are some matches, and we will talk about it in our play-by-play, that probably could have main evented a Dynamite or a Rampage, and kind of made the flow of Double or Nothing just go smoother, or just make it go smoother. Yeah.
Yeah, from a logistics point of view, it might as well note this now, actually, seeing as we're on this. Part of the reason why the show ended up having 13 matches, for those unaware, because it's quite possible, you know, for a lot of people in the UK, for example, if you watched it through the night, like I did, live, that there was a huge NBA basketball playoff game happening at the same time as Double or Nothing. And when you look at things, say, like from the UFC or the boxing world, generally we'll go for boxing more often than not, because I think that's a better comparison.
Yeah.
Usually it's just the one big fight that is promoted. I'm not a fan of boxing. I can't tell you who current names are, but for argument's sake, let's just say it's an Anthony Joshua fight or a Tyson Fury fight. Generally, it would be that marquee match that's promoted, maybe one or two underneath, but there is still an undercard on that show. So the mentality that Tony Khan had was, well, you know what? There is probably still a lot of interest in this show. I'm going to buy an extra hour of pay-per-view airtime because the game will finish by around a certain time. And if we time out the show to a point where there's still 2, maybe 3 big matches left, people may still buy the show and tune in after the fact rather than just waiting for the replay. And based on what he was saying during the post-match press conference, it sounds like when that game ended, the viewership of Double or Nothing did actually go up a bit. So as an experiment, it's actually quite fascinating that almost treating it like that, having like the big matches left till last, as it were, or at least a few of them, excuse me. It's a very interesting concept. But from the perspective of someone like myself, who was watching live, who, not that I don't like basketball, but I wasn't interested in the game, I just wanted to watch the show, this was a long show. And there was a point where I was really flagging, but there was also a point, Ian, when I wasn't flagging, because as Justin Roberts eloquently put it, shit's about to hit the fan.
Oh, I have never laughed so hard. Just a random moment in wrestling show. But yeah, we'll talk about Anarchy in the Arena later on. But yeah, in terms of watching Double or Nothing, this took me, it's like I didn't watch it live. I ordered the pay-per-view. I watched it after I came home from work. It took me 2 sittings simply because of how the flow kind of affected me, kind of my energy levels a bit, because it's like when you had like a really good high of, say, like House of Black against Death Triangle, which was a fantastic match. And then you get to like the sort of it's all right, it's good, but it's not as great as it could be, like say the Owen Hart Tournament finals, or even Men of the Year and Paige Van Sant versus Ty, Sammy, and Kazarian, all that sort of stuff.
That 6-person tag.
Yeah, it's just like when the matches work, the energy is amazing. But when you have a great high watching a great match, and then you kind of hit the block of arguably an all right match or something that's passable, but it's just like it's kind of making you get distracted a bit. It kind of would occasionally make me want to reach for my phone or just kind of take my eye off the ball a little bit. And I think that is the sad frustration, I guess, with the show length. But like I said earlier, if you can do a show like All Out and you can make it from top to bottom really engaging, really exciting, and there's quality matches from start to finish, go for it. Have fun. Go for that sort of length of time. And yeah, if that's the reason why, to kind of obviously get those viewers in after the basketball game, that's fair enough. That's fine. That's a business decision. That's a good business decision.
And also a fascinating decision as well.
Yeah, it's just the only thing is it opens you up to that sort of reception if things don't land well. But yeah.
Agreed completely. Now, the other big story that occurred or going into Double or Nothing, and we're not going to, for want of a better phrase, we're not going to labor on this too much because it seems like there may be more news coming out about this today based on something that's been announced in the last hour or so at the time we are broadcasting this live. So we'll get onto that in a second. But MJF. Now, in the politest way to put this to everybody watching and or listening, if you have somehow successfully lived under a rock since the weekend and do not know anything that's happened regarding MJF, you deserve a gold star because this was dominating stuff. You can add some thoughts as needed, Ian, on this, but the cliff notes are as follows. It's been widely known that MJF and we'll say Tony Khan, for want of a better phrase, haven't necessarily been on the same page in recent months. There's been some contract feelings, as it were, pay dispute-related things going on. Part of the reason why it's been acknowledged on AEW television. This seemingly came to a head in some way, shape, or form this weekend. MJF was meant to be doing a signing session at the big AEW Fan Fest Delia Bob that was happening in Las Vegas as part of the Weekender. He did not show up. This was not advertised. He wasn't going to show up. He simply didn't show up, and nobody knew why. It was completely out of the blue. The staff on hand had to deal with some crap by the sound of it, which, not fun. I have been there in a convention capacity myself before, having to deal with something that is totally out of your hands. So not fun. To add a quick note, Samoa Joe also did not appear, but that has come out since. That was actually due to a communication error because he was booked seemingly to do some kind of video game voiceover session.
He's in the new Suicide Squad game. He's King Shark.
The Kill the Justice League game, right?
Yeah, he's King Shark in that.
Yeah. So seemingly that's why he wasn't there. So that was literally a communication breakdown error, however you want to phrase it. So this happens, and as the day is going on, obviously it's pretty big because this isn't a work, quote unquote. Then news starts coming out later that evening that was being reported that there has seemingly been he has seemingly had a plane ticket bought for him to fly out of Las Vegas, implying he ain't gonna be on Double or Nothing. There's still a lot of things going on as to whether that actually is the case or not. We're not going to delve into that too much because that's beside the point, but it's just to make it known. Ultimately, when push comes to shove, MJF was in Vegas for Double or Nothing. He did show up. His match was first on the pay-per-view. He acknowledged the airplane-related reporting in some gestures that he did when he came out to the ring, let's say. But ultimately, he was there. The match happened. And seemingly after this, it was sort of known there was going to be a meeting between him and Tony Khan, probably to discuss some stuff.
Yeah.
The latest update on this is, as of within the last hour, Tony Khan has announced on his Twitter that we will hear from MJF on Dynamite tonight. Which perhaps a little bit surprising, given how it ultimately ended, but we'll cross that bridge as and when we need to get to it. Actually, I'm pretty sure it was Tony Khan's Twitter. I'm just on there now, and I can't actually see it.
I think it was AEW's Twitter feed.
There you go. Thank you. So yeah, so that's been announced. So with all of that in mind, Iain, let's just do the quick Cliff Notes version of this. Going into Double or Nothing, what were your sort of general thoughts on the MJF situation, quote unquote?
I mean, from a character's perspective, MJF has been very good at blending truth from fiction, and he's done that,
blurring those lines.
If you see any of his interviews, his podcasts, wherever he turns up, it's like there is an element of truth to what he says, but then sometimes you're always kind of under the impression that he still lives up that heel persona. I can't remember the podcast off the top of my head, but I remember watching one a couple of months ago, and he's continuously still acting like a heel during the interview. So he's saying, no, you can't be the same level as me. I'm the better star. I'm the bigger star. I'm better than you. You have to be on a different level, eye level than me. Otherwise I'm going to walk, all that sort of stuff. So he plays that up beautifully. But the sense I was kind of getting from some of the wrestling news sites, obviously Fightful, who are very heavily involved in trying to get as much updates as they can. It generally gives the impression that something is not right here, or something is generally not well in the camps, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, he turned up on Sunday. He did the job. He took 10 power bombs from Wardlow. There he is. He took his medicine, and yeah, we've got this thing tonight. But this is the thing. It's like it's interesting that this has kind of happened like 2 weeks after. Obviously, we've had Sasha and Naomi. We talked about this last episode, and it's unfortunately a very. I know people are kind of going. I've seen kind of the arguments of, oh, it's different. It's not as bad as what WWE have been. It's like, well, here's the thing. It's like MJF signed with AEW at the very start. He is an original. And in the 3 and a bit years he's been with this company, he has been able to deliver great matches. He has probably delivered this year 2 very strong contenders for feuds of the year with Punk and with Wardlow. And the fact of the matter is, it's like he is a star. He is
His
a bona
stock has
fide
risen
star.
greatly.
Yeah, out of all the stars that started with AEW, who didn't necessarily have that sort of New Japan backing, someone like the Omega or the Young Bucks or even Hangman Page, for example, MJF was kind of an unknown commodity when he joined. But 3 years later, here we are. He's one of the biggest stars of the brand. It's like people love to hate him, all this sort of stuff. And if he's not being paid the money that's kind of come with that sort of success of bringing those eyes to the product and delivering those quality storylines, I think if you were in his shoes, you would be a little bit pissed off, to be perfectly honest. And it probably doesn't help when other stars, free agents, are coming in from different brands. Obviously, most from WWE. I mean, they're coming in, they're getting very big contracts, and they're in their contract pale in comparison to what you're on. It must be. What's the word? It's a gut kick. It must be really frustrating that for some reason this contract can't be amended. It can't be updated. It can't be sorted. So MGF gets his due. And yeah, I think you look at Sasha and Naomi. They were frustrated with their booking. They were frustrated with where things were going. And yes, they walked out and they took the match in their hands. And again, very similar with MGF. He is frustrated with how he's been valuing the company. He doesn't know what the best course of action might be at this sense. Again, this is just me kind of
Hypothesizing.
Yeah, like I do not have any inkling of proper insight into these, how these
to be honest,
think.
no one does at this point.
No.
It's all very pie in the side stuff.
It's kind
I
of
do agree with you.
It's kind of taking in everything that I've read and kind of everything I've kind of heard and so forth. It's just like, yeah, I mean, even if this is a work, it's probably not going to go down well with the fans that paid money to meet and greet with him at Las Vegas.
I think it's come out they ultimately got refunded. As it were, which is the right thing to do, regardless of the circumstance.
Yeah, I mean, if they quit, you got refunded, fine. That's okay. It
may not necessarily have been quick because the situation was so unique and off the cuff, as it were. But yeah, it's not fun. I think Brian Alvarez of WrestlingObserver.com summed it up best in that this started as a shoot, which is probably now going to turn into a work of some kind.
Mm.
Because one would assume Tony Khan and or MJF were not going to let each other leave before this had been hashed out.
Yeah.
As it were. That's kind of how I see it. But onto the pay-per-view itself. So let's get to that. As you mentioned, we opened up with Wardlow powerbombing the ever-loving hell out of MJF. It was 10 powerbombs. This match was exactly what it needed to be. It was fairly quick, decisive, exactly what it was. MJF got stretched out in the most, I almost said geriatric way possible, but that's not the word I wanted to use. It was
whoever was putting on the oxygen mask clearly didn't know where the mouth and nose was because it just went on the nose.
I mean, look, they were look, you need to have your eyeballs oxygenated. This is a known thing, But yeah, so he kind of just got somewhat carted out on a stretcher afterwards.
Yeah,
and
much.
Tony Schiavone, when Wardlow got up to the ramp, did the big announcement that Wardlow is now all elite. This was exactly what it needed to be, but you can't not say this match feels like it should have been far bigger than it ultimately was, partly because of the stuff that was doing the rounds over the weekend. It was still great the way they did it, but there was just that element of it feels like it should have been more. Like, in a way, poor Wardlow, but not, you know what I mean? It's that rock in a hard place.
Yeah, I mean, from a story and script perspective, it works perfectly. MGF avoids Wardlow for as much as he can until he gets pulled into the ring. He then goes, I've got the diamond ring. And there's this beautiful visual of both Wardlow and the ref just going, no.
Just looking at him.
Take the ring, pocket it, right, go. And then, gets the 10 power bombs, pretty much euphoria from Wardlow, because obviously all this has been building up for the last couple of months. For storyline perspective, it basically has made Wardlow a star. The only the big negative with this, unfortunately, is the impact the whole weekend saga has had on it, because it's kind of muted what arguably should be Wardlow's biggest moment as a wrestler.
The next big breakout star, let's call it what it is.
Yeah. This is someone who, I mean, even when they were doing like the Goldberg-esque entry of him just being escorted in, it's like that is so cool. It's like only a few wrestlers can pull it off when they're in like their prime. Goldberg was able to do it when obviously he was in his prime and in the WCW days. But you see with Wardlow, and it's like, yeah, this man's a monster. It's cool. But he kind of now comes across as this gentle giant monster, which is a good thing. So it's like he's a charismatic baby face monster. That's great. That's what we need.
I'm looking forward to hearing his music again. I miss it. Yes.
It'll be nice to hear that This Is War. They should have done This Is War once they said, yes, you're now finally all elite, because then you go, yay! Confirmation it happens. But yeah, it's kind of like, I think emotionally this may have hit a lot better if we didn't have the things going on outside around it.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see what MJF says tonight. But yeah, we'll see. We shall see.
Indeed. The second match on the card was Elite versus Delete. The Young Bucks versus the Hardly Boys. Or the Hardys, as they are now just called. They're no longer boys, finally. They finally graduated.
They're Hardy men. Hardy men, John.
Hardy lads.
Hardy men. Men that still do their dancing. They're still throwing their hands up in the air with the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And then Jeff goes, hold my back.
So this is the thing, right? This match was really good. Like, this was a really good match. But you can't help but say Jeff Hardy was having an off night. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. It's just one of those things where I think one of his boots came undone as he was climbing the top rope or something. It was really weird. Just kind of looks a little bit out of it, which given the matches that he's had recently, you probably can't blame him. But the match came together. There was some insanely good moments in it. It was such a wonderful spectacle. And what I would say is, if this is the last great showcase we're going to get as the Hardys as a tag team, I think this was a tremendous swan song. Not saying they're going to be gone tomorrow, although that said, Jeff Hardy is now not wrestling on Dynamite tonight because he is injured, as is the case with Adam Cole, apparently. So it's a shame that you could... What's the way to phrase this politely? You could clearly see how the Road had owned two of them.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like, you could see the battle scars really front and center, but it was still a really fun match.
Yeah, I think the first third, I mean, once we hit like the middle and towards the final third, when it was like the Hardys sort of taking on the super kick party and really kind of trying to do as best they can, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, the first third was really on, and it's the moment where Jeff tried to do a whisper in the wind and it didn't necessarily work out or didn't really happen. And then you could kind of see there was definitely maybe some audibles or maybe some conversations going on at the same time to try and make things work eventually. Because it was clear something was a bit off.
I do wonder if he got his bell rung at some point. It's entirely possible.
It is possible. It is very possible. But it was good they were able to get it to like the standard it was towards the end, and it was a fun match when it really fired on all cylinders. It really was.
Also, shout out to the Young Bucks for their entrance and their super kick party parody video. Really good fun. Next up, we had Jade Cargill retaining the TBS Championship over Anna Jay. This match was present. It was clearly, it had been added with pretty much no build up to the show. I think it was like an angle on Rampage and then a promo that basically led to this match.
Pretty much.
The key details, though, are kind of things surrounding the match. The primary focus being that Jade Cargill had a lot of interference to help her retain the title. That's ultimately what the key of the story is. Excuse me. The former Malcolm Bivens, aka Stokely Hathaway, if you knew him from his indie days, turned up and is seemingly, based on Jade Cargill's post-match, on the post-show press conference, she highlighted that she has the baddies, she has her lawyer and has her manager.
Mm.
So it seems that Stokely is not replacing Mark Sterling, is actually an addition to the entire lineup, which I think is great. Stokely it can be a great presence. Also, just great to see Stokely Hathaway. Not gonna lie, I was very, very happy.
Yeah,
but that wasn't all that happened after this match.
I mean, just quickly on Stokely. So I was surprised. It's like, I didn't realize his 30 days it was up from NXT. It was like, oh, hello. What are you doing here? But
it's seemingly because I think someone reported it wasn't actually that he got let go. He didn't renew his contract.
So he was able to appear quite quickly. Yeah.
Mm. And also, I think according to Tony Khan, he literally did the deal like 24 hours before the show when he became aware of it.
Oh, okay.
So literally, it was that last minute that Stokely was on the show.
It's like, quick, Las Vegas, now. Okay.
It's like a backbone.
I've enjoyed his Twitter game when he was Malcolm Bivens, especially when he's tormenting Walter or Gunther.
So good. It's just the photos he get with everyone just looking so annoyed he's next to them.
Yeah, I think he's gonna have a whale of a time in AEW. I really do. And I think teaming him up with Jade is perfect. Absolutely
agreed.
Perfect.
Completely agree. But as I alluded to, that wasn't all that happened, because Anna Jay started getting beaten on after the match, which led to Chris Statlander coming out, who... Have you seen the Rampage match between Ruby and Chris Statlander?
I have not, but I am aware that Chris has gone through a character change, which looks really cool. And and based on the reaction that she was getting at Double or Nothing, fans really do like Chris Statlander.
It's one of the few matches I have seen in a long time where you feel like if there was ever a time to call an audible for the other person to win, it should have been that Ruby and Statlander match. Not because people don't like Ruby, it's just Statlander. Also, it was such a good match, though. Like, go out of your way to watch it if you get some time. But it's one of those few times when you're like, the wrong person won. Not in a bad way, but the wrong person won that match. So Statlander comes out to, defend her friend Anna Jay, and obviously has got the previous heat with Red Velvet in terms of storyline. And then this leads to the debuting former Ember Moon, now known elsewhere and everywhere as Athena, showing up. And boy, did she look happy.
Yeah, she looks very, very happy to be there as well.
And her charisma, like, oh my God, it was like, to steal a phrase when people would talk about Razor Ramon, like oozing charisma, she was like the Super Saiyan equivalent from Dragon Ball Z terms of charisma. It was just like flames coming off of her. It was so cool.
I think I'm gonna put it out there as a little mini prediction. I think Athena's the one to take the first loss, to give Jade her first loss. I can see this being a good build to maybe All Out, to maybe Grand Slam. And I think that's where we're positioning Athena to be the one to dethrone Jade.
I think Statlander will probably be the next challenger. That seems logical to me. Which, like you say, would build to Athena getting a shot. Because obviously, from the perspective of Athena needs to actually build up a win-loss record. Like, in the nicest way to put it, the rankings are there for a reason. I really don't want people just waltzing in and getting a title shot. Unless it's Jade going, who the hell do you think you are? I'll wrestle you. Heck, I'll put this belt on the line. If it's her doing it, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, but I think, didn't Ruby come in, win a Battle Royale and then have a title match at
I think the Battle Royal gave her a title shot. So I'll allow that because that was part of the stipulation. I think it was it a casino Battle Royal? It was all out, wasn't it?
It was, yes.
Yeah. After this, we then advance to, in fact, so we'll kind of do this in one block, as it were. The conclusion of the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. We got Adam Cole defeating Samoa Joe, and then we ultimately got Britt Baker defeating Ruby Soho. I thought the Cole and Joe match was all right. It seems to have come out after the fact that Cole either got injured during the match or was already injured going in, and then kind of got further injured in the match. There were some great moments in this, but in the nicest way to put this, I don't know why I keep saying this, because, they're never going to see me or whatever, but this match was just there. This almost felt like the definition of a show in the middle of the card. Or a match in the middle of the show, sorry.
You are not the first wrestling YouTuber I have heard in the last couple of days saying this was a match that was in the middle of the card.
Because it was.
Yeah,
but you know what, though? Baker and Ruby, just to quickly jump onto that so you can
Yeah.
give your overall thoughts. I loved that match. I really liked it.
Yeah, I think Cole and Joe were all right. Did they ever meet in NXT? I don't think they
in
have.
NXT.
I don't think they have.
Maybe in a multi-man match for the belt, maybe?
Possibly.
When Joe won it one time.
Possibly. I just, because Joe took it off Karrion Kross and then vacated it like a month later. I can't remember, but it's like it was a good match. There's obviously you have your few things, you have the Kuniko clutch, all that sort of stuff, but something was a little bit missing there. And
nothing wrong with it. It was just
nothing wrong. Yeah, Baker versus Soho was the better final out of the two. It's like it was a decent match. I enjoy it. Again, it's like I wasn't really blown away by this match either, to be honest. It's like I haven't really been, I think a lot of the investment in the Owen Hart tournament was with the earlier matches, like Dax versus Cash, for example, and all that sort of stuff. And I kind of like the fact that Baker kind of begrudgingly gave Soho a handshake of respect.
Yeah, it did feel like there was not closure on that feud, but it at least was acknowledged, look, this was about Owen Hart, this one. This isn't personal. This was like business, for want of a better phrase.
And there were some sharpshooters thrown in for good measure. There's some good
I mean, okay, I just knocked the microphone, excuse me. This is a different debate entirely now.
Contention!
The sharpshooters on this pay-per-view. Now, I gotta stop knocking my microphone, sorry. I appreciate that speaking as a giant man, a 6'8" man, at the best of times, trying to lift up your own legs is a bit of a chore. But the sharpshooter is something that people have been doing for decades at this point. There were some crap sharpshooters on this show. Let's call it like it is. There were some
variations. Let's say they're variations, Jeremy.
There were some crap sharpshooters on this show. Now, I love the fact the sharpshooter was being used, and the counterpoint to my own point is I also like the fact, in a way, it kind of showed how damn good Bret Hart was at doing it, and how good Owen Hart was, and how Sting can do the Scorpion one-up, because it's like, this ain't easy, fellas. You actually need strength to do it, so it kind of put that over in a way. But yeah, minor gripe out of the way. But yeah, Baker and Soho was definitely the better match. Also, shout out to Rancid performing for Ruby Soho's entrance. It was so good. And because I saw some scuttlebutt on Twitter, and this is my platform to kind of say this now, people who said they didn't sound that good, did they? First of all, you ever heard punk rock? Second of all, you ever heard Rancid? That was good. Third of all, do you remember when Downstate performed Cody to the Ring for his song? And it sounded god-frickin' awful. And no one actually realized it was the song.
Which one? Kingdom or his Smoke and Mirrors one?
Oh, have they done it? Oh, Kingdom, the one they did in AEW for him.
Oh, Kingdom.
The one where you could barely tell it was the song until they started singing, and you're like, oh, wait, this is his song?
Cody Rhodes, we're murdering the song of Cody Rhodes.
But now, it was after the match, though, where I think the entire Owen Hart tournament, this is the ending, the conclusion it needed. And I mean this in a loving way as well, in a very wholesome way.
Yeah.
Because Martha Hart, now seemingly a little bit of behind the curtain stuff now, part of the reason that Tony Khan bought the extra hour of pay-per-view time was to allow literally Martha Hart to come out on the ramp to do the closing ceremony, if you will, for the tournament. And literally, seemingly she was just told, say whatever you want. And ultimately, present the belts to each competitor and then present the trophy as well. But say whatever you want. And this was a situation is the wrong word. This was a moment when you could tell that Martha Hart actually enjoyed this.
Yeah.
And really appreciated everything surrounding this. And it was almost like a coming full circle moment. It is one of the most genuinely wholesome things you will see in pro wrestling. You could tell she was genuinely touched by the reaction the crowd were giving her, the reception to the entire tournament, the concept of it. And in a weird way, I think it was her moment to finally like and or appreciate what pro wrestling means to people again.
Yeah.
After all the stuff that has kind of been painted, after all the stuff that's been painted about her for so many years, and the Dark Side of the Ring documentary kind of helping to rewrite and correct that and course correct that and whatnot. It was finally a time for her to have her moment and enjoy this and appreciate what her husband really means to people. And it was wonderful to see this.
Yeah, it was wholesome. It was nice. It didn't feel forced or contrived. It was basically Martha was generally happy to be there. The crowd loved to be in there, and yeah, it was just a nice, good moment. I think for wrestling,
that's the word I was looking for. Feel good. Thank you.
Yeah, I think for wrestling fans who are very, very familiar or have been fans of Owen's work back in his days,
me for example,
it's kind of like a full circle moment in a nice way. It really is.
Really good.
I mean, yeah, I think if this has been the ultimate sort of goal of the Owen Hart tournament to begin with for the first year, I think they've done very well with that then. But yeah, other than that, it was like we had some nice matches, but yeah, maybe next year when the tournament returns and like it really feels like there's like greater stakes or greater sort of thrills as we go into the final matches.
I wonder. It's a little bit of, fantasy booking for a moment here. Because if this is going to become an annual thing, I would be very interested to see if they'll shake up the format in the sense of, rather than it being two singles tournaments, why not make it almost like a mixed tag tournament? Yeah. Because I think that could be a fun way, given that, quite frankly, the winners of the inaugural tournament are a couple. It would be a really cool way to get some unique pairings of people, which I know what you're probably going to say when it comes to how the winners are conveniently a couple who are both wearing, color coordinated ring gear. I'm fine with it.
It's like slightly off topic. I randomly looked at one of the wrestling groups. I think it was the Cultaholic wrestling group, and someone said, "Well, this is a weird way to get married." And they just showed the image, and I hadn't seen the Owen Hart tournament matches. I wasn't that fussed that it being sport for me or anything like that because I wasn't fully invested in the finals. But it's like you've got Martha Hart with her lovely hat.
That was a fun moment when she just said, "Oh, everyone next year wear a hat."
Yes, it's the tournament of hats. And I genuinely thought they got married at that moment. Looking at it, I just went, they did they? It's like it's like I know we want to try and make the best of the Vegas situation, and obviously Charlotte and Andrade have recently got married this past week. Congratulations to them, by the way. I was just thinking, really? But I realized, hang on a minute, Ian, this doesn't make sense at all. but it really threw me for a moment when I saw that on the Cultaholic group. It's like, what madness is this? Who gets married? Who gets engaged on a wrestling show? We all know engagements don't last.
I mean, it's a debate for another day, good sir. But I will say, actually, I've got to give a shout out to the actual the championship. I say the championship belts, the tournament winner belts that they each got presented with. I'm not sure if you're aware, but the designs were based off of the original Stampede Wrestling of Calgary championship styles.
Oh, nice!
So it's literally a homage to like the early promotion, the family promotion that Owen Hart would have like wrestled in and stuff. So really cool. Also, those belts just look really cool.
They do.
They just look really cool. Also, gotta say, if you haven't heard as well, they announced over the FanFest weekend they're actually doing 2 Owen Hart figures as part of the AEW line. So that's gonna be really cool. I might have to get the Owen Hart figures because they look pretty cool.
Yeah,
they look cool.
They do some very good figurines. AEW. So.
Yes, that they do. Next up, we had arguably one of the matches of the night.
Before we carry on, we'll just mention this now. We've done a slight error. House of Black actually happened before the Owen Hart finals.
I did wonder when I was looking at notes, actually. But you know what? Doesn't matter.
My bad. I mean, this is 13 matches, and I lose track of what happens when. So I apologize. I was writing the script notes on that. But yes.
No, that's fine.
This happened before the Owen Hart matches. But yes, let's continue on this absolutely effing corker of a match.
This match was awesome. If you like athletic stuff, like kind of lucha style stuff which just seems unfathomable at the best of times, which is usually what happens involving any of these 6 men anyway.
Pretty much.
It was such good fun. Ultimately, it came down to the fact that Pac was going to hit the Black Arrow on, I think it was Malachi Black in the end, if memory serves.
Yep.
Then the lights go out. And at that moment, you know what that normally means? It's, someone's going to either debut or be there in a second. Who's it going to be? And we finally got the payoff that I was hoping for, because Julia Hart finally went to her emo phase in life. Appeared, spewed black mist in Pac's face. She's got half of her face painted finally, and her eye can now be visible. And then House of Black got the win. This was so good. And I wasn't annoyed at the ending because we knew it was going to happen at some point, if ever.
Yeah, I bet this was probably, I think this was probably supposed to happen a lot earlier, to be honest. Because I think they were due to have this match at Revolution.
Yeah, and then Phoenix had his gruesome arm injury.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
This is a perfect example, by the way. Here's a weird analogy for you.
Okay.
If you play My GM mode in WWE 2K22, there is a moment when you don't do feud for a little bit, or you finish a feud, and it's called Rivalry Cooldown. You could very much argue that this entire feud has been on Rivalry Cooldown for a long bloody time. And in theory, no one should care about it at this point. But the great thing is, when you've got 6 people the caliber of the Death Triangle and House of Black, to put it bluntly, you can't freaking fail. So this match was awesome. And even if you didn't know going in what the feud was, you understood exactly what occurred in this match. And it was just a sight to behold. It was great.
I think even from like the entrances brought the viewers in, because you had these 2 very contrasting sort of gothic horror focused sort of entrances. Obviously you had like I think it's the Finnish or Norwegian rock styles of like House of Black's entrance, and then you have like what's the word? I think the vibrant sort of rock entrance of like Death Triangle from their little gravestone, where they're all just popping out. Pentagon's just going, "Ooh, hello, zero fear," all that sort of stuff. Even one of the kids came out. Even one of the kids came out saying,
I think that was either Phoenix or Penta's son.
It was one of their kids, but it was just kind of like they was going, "Yeah, man."
And do you know what my first thought was? I had 2 thoughts. One, that's the future right there of this family. Second of all, who's he going to Hurricane Rana in this match? Was literally what I thought.
Yes.
I've also got to give a shout out to House of Black and the fact that they're all their really cool like face paint and stuff.
Oh,
freaking
God,
glowed
so
in the
cool.
dark as well. It looks so good.
Yeah, I think one of the things that came out of this, I think this is what a lot of folks have been saying, is like, can we please have a trios title now? Because you clearly have the teams for it.
Apparently, there has been scuttlebutt recently that apparently belts are already either in the works or have been created, but seemingly they're holding off on doing anything until Omega is back.
Which we don't know when. Because he might not be back for the rest of the year. He might not be back until next year, to be honest.
And the thing is, though, I've said this for years, even in WWE terms, 6-man tags normally in WWE are pretty good. In AEW, they are more often than not really flipping good. No pun intended if there are flips in the match. Or better. They're just really good.
I mean, last episode, people heard me just literally gush about Randy Orton RKOing people in a 6-man main event tag match of WrestleMania Backlash.
Yeah.
So it's like, the stuff works. It can work. Just do it. Just come on, Tony. Come on. Give us the belt.
Please, Tony.
Please, Tony. Tony, give us the belt. Tony, give us the belt. Please. Please.
The thing is, as well, like when it comes to... So... I appreciate we're sort of trying to keep this fairly double or nothing focused there, so I won't deviate too much. But the thing about having the championships that people can really get behind, I'm going to use a quick Japanese wrestling analogy here. Okay. In Dragon Gate, they have a 6-man championship. It's called the Triangle Gate because a lot of theirs are kind of like based on like gates and whatnot. It's a long explanation, but just go with it. But the idea is the Triangle Gate is the hardest title to remain champions of, because you can get so many different combinations. Oh, hit the microphone again. I'm going to stop doing that. You get so many different combinations of people being a 3-man team. It's impossible to be the champions for more than, say, maybe 5 or 6 defenses at absolute best.
Mm-hmm.
So the titles are regularly changing hands, not to their detriment, but to the strength of the tag team division in the promotion and the combinations of people that there are.
Mm-hmm.
AEW have easily got that. Like, their tag team division is so flipping deep. It is unreal. And the 6-man tag team championships, the trios titles, could main event any show every week. And you know it would be a great match.
Mm. Absolutely. Tony, give us the belts, please. Please, Tony.
Tony, give us the belts. Tony,
give us the belt. Oh, God. Tony, give us the belts. Tony, give us the belts. Come on.
So, this next match, Men of the Year, Scorpio Sky, and his cool Los Angeles Lakers colored TNT title, it's got to be said.
It is a nice belt. I will say this now. It is a very nice belt.
Ethan Page and the debuting MMA fighter Paige Van Zandt defeating Sammy Guevara, Ty Conti, and Kazarian. This match was there. If you enjoyed seeing Ty getting kicked by Sammy, of which the sort of the TV storyline is he had to sleep on the couch that night. That said, based on a post-match promo that I saw appear online, it sounds like Sammy's going to do something to make up the fact he did that. I don't know what, but also online,
someone else.
But also seemingly he tweeted, as did other people in the match, going, "Thank God this is over."
I mean, there was a promo during Double or Nothing where Scorpio's going, "This is over. This is done." And then Dante Martin turns up and says, "Hey, I want a belt. I want a shot."
I am getting with seeing Scorpio Sky and Dante. It's going to be a good match. The one wrinkle in this potential match, though, the one extra extraneous detail, I don't know what the word is, other detail. Leading into this match, it was said that if Guevara and Kazarian's team lost, those two could never challenge for the TNT title again. That was reined back a little to being, you're never getting for Scorpio, if you imagine I'm saying this is Scorpio Sky, you're never getting a shot at my TNT title. Implying as long as he is champion.
Yes, which is a good thing because they probably might want to do more title reigns, maybe with Sammy and maybe with Frankie Kazarian. There's plenty of opportunities. I mean,
it would be nice if Frankie Kazarian could actually win a match, though. Have you seen his win-loss record? He's never won a singles match in AEW.
Oh, there you go. A storyline. Make it work, Tony. There you go.
Losing streak. There you go.
But the fact of the matter is, there is enough talent in AEW to make that belt good, or to really.
It's been proven.
Just repairing the last few months of just bollocks. To be honest.
You're being so polite.
I'm being so polite. I haven't properly sworn on this show yet, which is good. I mean, I get one, but
in the words of hardcore metal band Hatebreed, now is the time.
No, I'm gonna wait for a different match.
Oh, okay. Well, let's move on then. So next up, Kyle O'Reilly versus Darby Allin. This was a really good match. It kind of suffered for where it was on the show. But if you'd have had this on like Dynamite, this would be one of the standout matches of the week. It was a really solid match. Darby somehow nearly didn't, but nearly did kill himself doing a tope, which was weird.
It was a weird spot, and then they did it again on the other side, which I think was supposed to, where Kyle was supposed to catch him into that sleeper hold, or that sort of guillotine choke hold or something like that. This was a really good fun. This was a really good technical fun match. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you're right. If this is on Dynamite or Rampage, this is one of the matches you're telling people to go out their way and watch. I mean, you still go out your way and watch it here on Double or Nothing. But again, it's like, and this again, it's like trying not. It's like, I don't want to be negative for negative sake, but this, if you were trying to trim the card to not be long, I would say you would get better reactions for this match if you were on Dynamite or Rampage. I think the audience would be a lot more prepared for it as well. But that doesn't take away from it. This was a very good match. I was genuinely surprised that Kyle won.
I think they're building up Kyle for something. I don't know what, but this feels significant. I know there was the angle involving Sting, which kind of would make sense if we eventually get a Red Dragon v Sting and Darby feud for a bit, which sounds like it'd be great fun, quite frankly.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But this feels significant, and I can't put my finger on why.
I mean, I think there will be a moment where they might pull the trigger on giving Undisputed Elite gold, to be honest. So I can see them going on a gold rampage at some point in the future.
You've just thought of the name of an episode of Rampage, by the way, Gold Rampage. It's just going to only be title matches. That's literally what it would be called that week.
Just go to the BBC archives and do Going for Gold.
Mate, that's a cool
going for gold. Beautiful gold.
If you're watching and or listening from this and are not from the UK, that's a reference you're never going to know about, but do not worry.
And if you were slightly aware of TV in the 80s as well.
Only slightly.
And early 90s as well.
The next match, AEW Women's World Championship, Thunder Rosa defeating Serena Deeb. The start of this match, it felt like the crowd were not into this, but this match was really freaking good, and there was just a moment when suddenly it's almost like the light switch got flicked on, and everyone was super into this. This match was so good from a technical perspective. It was really, really strong. And you know how we've been saying like the women's world title just needs to be better presented in general? Mm-hmm. This is the way to kickstart it. This match was great. Thunder Rosa, after the match, I think, did a promo backstage saying something to the effect of, I want to be a fighting champion. I don't want to wait for someone to just come up and challenge me. Effectively saying, who's next? So if this is the way to kickstart Thunder Rosa from being a more fighting champion, because I think she's also been injured, which is why she's not wrestled that much. Yeah. This was an excellent match to start that hype train with.
Yeah, I think this was a very good technical match. I think out of women's championship matches has been one of the better ones in quite some time. My general mindset is I think it's been hampered by the build. The build's been
It's not been ideal.
No, it's not been ideal. But if this is how we jumpstart something really meaningful with this belt and with the stories that come with it, I will take that. I will be happy with that. Mm-hmm. Because this match was really good. It started out as a sort of a technical sort of kind of show. It's like showmanship or just kind of feel out in terms of.
It's like a test of ability in a way.
Yeah, it's kind of like who can sort of switch into different positions quickly and do and so forth. It was, and then when you get to like the big moves and the flips and all that sort of stuff, yes, gets really good. But no, Rosa winning was never in doubt. But yes, let's see what happens. So far, so good. I like this.
Then we cut to, I've already alluded to this, but I'm going to do it again because I think it needs to be said. Justin Roberts basically just gets in the ring and he effectively does something to the effect of, go on, Iain.
I just think for the benefit of our video viewers, I think just reenacting the sort of, because it's like Justin Roberts is about to start calling the match. So he's about to start calling the match. And he's just, because partly the way he just kind of stops a minute, just kind of goes, he doesn't know what the rules of an Anarchy in the Arena match is, does he? he's just going, it's like he's trying to ponder what to say and what's about to happen. And then he just goes, ladies and gentlemen, shit's about to hit the fan.
The only way to win is by pinfall or submission in the ring. And then this is. So I haven't actually talked about this yet. I feel the need to highlight this. I watched this show live because it just worked out. Like I wasn't doing much on Monday, so I thought, you know what? I'm gonna stay up. I've not done this in a long time for any wrestling show. I'm gonna stay up. At this point, I want to say it was roughly maybe about 4 a.m. So
no, delirium is setting in, Jeremy.
Literally, so I watched this match. The crowd got insanely hyped. I got insanely hyped. I had to stand up at this point to try and stay awake because that's how much my body was crashing. And I remember loving this match. Could I remember anything that happened when I thought about it earlier today? No, not whatsoever. So I ended up earlier today before we started recording, watching it again, and I'm just like, that was really freaking good. I I'm not space crazy. This was such a good fight. This is what this was. It was so much fun.
I think Robert's doing the things hit the fan is kind of like you just think, oh, that's a strange thing, and then you've got Jericho Appreciation Society turning up like the Backstreet Boys or like a boy band, and they're all dressed in white, and you just go, okay, that's a odd color choice. This definitely is probably not going to be good. And then Wild Thing kicks up, and Blackpool Combat Club, LAX, and Eddie Kingston turn up, and majority of them are wearing white. You just go, oh, fuck, a lot of blood's going to get spilled, isn't it? And they start brawling, and Wild Thing just keeps playing.
It was harkening back to New Jack in ECW. It was so good. But I think the moment when this got turned up even further on like the crowd anticipation scale was the song is just playing. And you're just thinking, oh, the song's coming to an end. That's a shame. And then there's a moment when there's just a lull in sound. And you could see, I think it might have been Moxie or someone just beating up someone as he wanted to do. Yeah. And suddenly you just hear the opening guitar riff of the song go again. And you just hear the crowd go, yes! And everyone is into it. And at that point, if you wanted to use the phrase that the amp got turned up to 11, that is what happened, because holy crap, there was blood and so much in this. And this was so good. It's hard to describe because it was that good.
Jericho does the ultimate heel move and turn the music off as well.
The rock star, Chris Jericho, objects to a rock song being played, so pulls out the freaking... that like pulls out part of the soundboard, and it's a heel move. The crowd start booing.
But yeah, it's like, is it? Oh, I forget his name. Is it Matt Monroe? Is it Matt Monroe?
Daddy Magic Matt Menard or Cool Hand Ange.
Yeah. Oh, he bled a lot.
That's an understatement, isn't it?
No, that's a complete understatement. I mean, you go up into the walkway and or the alleyway where the stands are, and it's like hot dog sauces get involved. I think Kingston gets doused in mustard before being flung onto the shirts, in which Tony Schiavone just goes, I think you'll find the price of the shirts have just gone up because of being coated in their blood.
This is the thing, though. This was just a wild brawl, and the beauty of this was when this was set up on TV, Jericho was about to say a stadium stampede match, and then Moxley effectively goes, no, we're not doing that bullshit. That was a different time. Call it Anarchy in the arena, call it whatever the hell you want. We're just gonna fight you. And he wasn't freaking joking. This was utterly insane, and we got to see a side of Bryan Danielson that has been teased so much. And there were kind of a few key moments of this. Well, one was he just started going toe-to-toe with Jake Hager, just like kicking him, and then ultimately just freaking pummeled him in the face to knock him down. And then he was fighting in the crowd. I think it was with Cool Hand Ange, and he just starts throwing him into the camera, literally into the camera lens.
Yeah.
But the best part of it of all, and I'm going to swear now, was when people are just... I think he knocked down Jericho, and he just shouts to the crowd, now I'm going to kick his fucking head in. And then it's just like, yes! So good.
And then after that, after going up, getting doused in hot dog sauce and flung into a shirt and lost in a service elevator, Eddie Kingston turns up.
Eddie Kingston comes out looking like he's dressed in a loading screen from GTA 5.
It's like he's come out, he's battered, he's bloody, he's bruised, he's got a can of petrol, and he tries to kill people.
It's literally a game still from GTA 5. That's what it is. And then, but this is what leads to the end of the match. That's a good segue there. Jericho, I think, is like in the label lock at this point from being applied by Danielson. Kingston comes in his like zombie GTA phase, and he's just starting to pour this petrol, this gasoline on Jericho, but it's getting Danielson as well. So Danielson takes exception, effectively goes, the hell you doing? And those two just start fighting. Moxley tries to break it up, but this is the opportunity to let the JAS get back into the match. Ultimately culminating with, I want to say it was Danielson and Jericho having a bit of a scuffle, and then Jake Hager coming in, hitting Danielson in the knee with Floyd, the baseball bat.
Yeah.
And then this leading to Jericho applying the walls of Jericho, and Jake Hager effectively reenacting in arguably a bit more of a brutal way how Danielson debuted as part of the Nexus before being rapidly fired when he choked Justin Roberts with a tie. He did it with a ring rope.
I think also just before that, Moxie went flying off the ring apron into a table, which also had a table of barbed wire, and he was just lying there like, I think my back's gone. I mean, it might be the barbed wire that's pretty much wedged in my back, but I think it's gone.
And then ultimately Danielson just passes out, and that is how this just insane brawl ends. And this is probably one of the best brawls in wrestling history. It's one of those things where if you've not seen it, not even necessarily from a brutality level, you just need to see it from an experiential point of view. By all accounts, like from looking around and like what it was like for people in the arena, if you were at ringside, you basically saw what happened at ringside and whatever you could vaguely see on the big screens. If you were higher up, you could see more. And obviously people were never going onto the concourse to try and follow Eddie Kingston being pummeled by various people and whatnot.
Yeah. This
was an experience overall. And this was just so damn good. It has to be seen to be fully appreciated.
Yeah. I think out of all the matches, I think this was match of the night, to be honest.
It's a big contender for it, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it is.
But you know what? You would think after a match like that, you would go, well, if this was a WWE show, the next match, quote unquote, in the nicest possible way to put this, could be considered a piss break. Or like the come down match, like the reset match, if you will.
I think you'll find, using your WWE 2K22 GM mode knowledge, I think you'll find that after you have a banger of a match, you need to have a little lip. You need to calm people down a bit.
But that's not what we got, because we got a three-way match for the tag team titles, which was so damn good. Jurassic Express ultimately retaining against the Team Taz duo of Will Hobbs and Ricky Starks, and Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland, who are such a good tag team. Keith Lee was having the time of his life out there. He couldn't stop smiling.
Yeah, Jurassic Express escaped with the belts just by the skin of their teeth. It's like I was surprised that they won, to be honest. I thought this was where they lose them. And either Team Taz or Swerve, I think it's Swerve in their glory or Swerve in his glory. I don't know.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, would probably likely one of them would take belts. I mean, Ricky Starks almost did it halfway through the match on Jungle Boy.
This is the thing. Like, Team Taz was equally great. This is why I was saying earlier, the tag team division in AEW, the roster is so deep in a good way. It's ridiculous. This match was really, really good fun. Again, it's difficult to sum up. There was a bit of a lull for the first few minutes while people kind of got into it.
Yeah.
But again, there was a moment when the amp just got turned up to 11, and it was so damn good. A wonderful moment. I don't know if you caught this, but I think it was Jungle Boy's mum and sister were in the front row. And there was a moment when I think it was Ricky Starks was starting to walk across the top rope, like Jungle Boy may do, or like Undertaker would do, for example.
Yeah.
And he's holding onto Jungle Boy's hand, but he's, let's say, making some gestures towards Jungle Boy's family. And ultimately, when he gets crotched, the face that he is doing is just like, oh! It was so good. But it was just, it's like a little Easter egg if you caught it. It was so good.
I like Ricky Starks. I really do. I think he's
so good. But ultimately, Jurassic Express retained. You were wondering, is this the moment that we might finally get a little bit of shenanigans with Christian? Because he got Jungle Boy up on his shoulders, and nothing happened. Which probably leads you to think, whenever Jurassic Express lose the belts, that's when this is going to happen now. That's kind of what they've set now as the stage for this.
Yeah, this is like, I can imagine. Who would they lose the belts to ultimately? I mean, you could. I think it would be a bit of a waste to give them straight to FTR. I think FTR will have those belts again soon.
100%.
Soon, but I think they need a good heel team to take them off. So
honestly, Team Taz, like I'd be fine with that. Taz,
or even House of Black.
Yeah, I mean, but then again, though, if they have a 6-man belt,
true. True.
This is the thing. It's so this is the wonderful problem we have now. It's like we have so many possibilities. It's actually exciting. You know what else was exciting? The main event. Because all of this had built up to the main event. At this, I'll say what I'm going to say. I'll keep that thought for after the match. But it's deep into the show at this point. It's very deep. And you're wondering, how the hell are they going to follow the match that just followed the match before it? And they did. But there was a wonderful thing about this. And I'm going to make a bit of a weird comparison here, but I hope you'll agree with me on it. This, in some ways, felt a little bit like The Rock and Hulk Hogan from the perspective at WrestleMania 18 of how the crowd reacted. Because the crowd, in that instance, were very firmly going in. You thought it may have been leaned towards The Rock, but that night, they went all Hogan. Whereas in this instance, the crowd, it was kind of a 50-50 split, give or take to like 70-30, 60-40. But the crowd weren't necessarily cheering for their guy each time. They were booing the one they didn't want to win louder. It was such a good dynamic. And there was some wonderful moments in this match. A couple of moments that, let's call it like it is. CM Punk couldn't do the buckshot lariat. There was the first time he did it, Adam Page immediately got in to then try and hit the GTS, which was a nice moment. You couldn't hide the fact it went a bit haywire for the second one. Didn't take away from the match, in my opinion, though. This told a great story, which ultimately led to Hangman Page is defending AEW. That's the story that he's been building going into this. It's not that he needs to defeat CM Punk. He needs to effectively save AEW from CM Punk. And so he has a crisis of conscience where he's got the belt and he's thinking, I'm going to hit him. Do I hit him with it? Do I really want to do this? Because he's been an honorable champion. Like, in a way, like, he's one of the literal, I hate to use the phrase AEW original, but he's been one of the first people in there. Giant fly just flew by if you saw that on the video, by the way. Ignore. So he's trying to decide, is he going to do this? Ultimately, he can't. He throws the belt down. That's what gives Punk the opportunity to hit the GTS after the ref has been knocked down a few moments prior. And then we get the 1, the 2, 3. It was the longest wait for a 3 count you've had in a while. And CM Punk dethrones Hangman Page. And at that moment, it was one of those scenarios for me where I was fine whoever was going to win. But while I was watching that match live, in my really weird brain fog state, standing up because I'm trying to stay awake at this point, because when this show went off the air, Ian, it was 5:43 in the morning.
Well, just to put that into perspective. 90 minutes. I'd be off to work in 90 minutes, yeah.
There you go. So I was just happy with whatever the result was going to be. I was going to be happy with it. But during the match, every time one or the other nearly won, I was like, go on, win! I
want to go to bed. Let me someone win. I want to go to bed. It was
such a fun experience watching this live, like, while it was happening. There's just that feeling when you know you're watching it live. You just have to see it as it happens. I really, really, really enjoyed this match. How those three... I will count Thunder Rosa and Serena Deeb in this as well. How those last 4 matches were equally great in their own right and somehow did not take away from one another is an absolutely great thing. And that is why I think this... I've seen mixed feelings about this show online. Despite the length of the show, which I agree it was way too long, that's why this show gets a big thumbs up from me, because the matches we got, when you look back on it and what this show meant in general from a wrestling perspective, top-notch stuff.
Yeah, I'd say I'm about to give it a score out of 5 or something. I'd be leaning towards 4, high 3 out of 5, high 3.5 out of 5. Because there are generally some really great matches here. It's just, if you trim the fat a little bit and you just kind of get the nice prime cuts of matches in there, this would have been one of the best shows since All Out last year. Easily, hands down, as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm fine with Punk being champion. It was I kind of sensed it was on the cards eventually, or when Punk started going, I want a belt and that sort of thing. Now, does he turn heel?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? Because the fact of the matter is, you could say it like this. The people got to see Punk win the belt and cheer for him. Pretty much unanimously. When push came to shove, whether you wanted Hangman to win or not, it was a unanimous, he's champion, oh my God. It was a moment in time. But now what happens? Because you now go into potential fantasy booking territory here.
Yes.
Because there are a couple of very obvious candidates as to who could be either challengers or possible contenders to dethrone Punk. An obvious one is MJF. But that arguably now is potentially in a massive weird territory.
That is a massive maybe or if.
Potential yellow flag on that.
Before this weekend, absolutely he's the one. He would probably be the one to dethrone him. But there are other potential contenders. I mean, Wardlow might have a solid case. I mean, he practically nearly beat him if it wasn't for MJF's interference.
Agreed.
So it's like MJF. So Wardlow has a case of saying, "Hey, I almost beat you if it wasn't for douchebag of a boss."
Can I propose an idea?
Go on.
We had a feud a little while ago, a short-lived feud between CM Punk and Eddie Kingston. During that feud, what did Eddie Kingston keep saying? That you can't trust Punk. He'll do this for his own gain. Things to that effect. Ultimately, he will betray you. He will prove I am right. What if Punk turns heel? Eddie is proven to be right. And there is a point in time when maybe he doesn't get involved for now. There's kind of that element of, look, no disrespect to you people, but I told you this. And assuming AEW wants to return to Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York, Eddie Kingston's hometown, and they do another big stadium show in there, what if Eddie Kingston dethrones CM Punk in New York in a freaking stadium show?
I think that would be really, really good. It's like, I'd love to see it happen, but it's just like, would they? I mean, the story is there. There's definitely a reasoning for him to be a challenger, at least for Punk. I think it's how the Blackpool Combat Club stuff sorts out, because I think we're gonna probably segue off into maybe like two feuds going on at the same time for Eddie. Eddie still wants to kind of murder Chris Jericho, but now he may have pissed off Blackpool Combat Club after trying to set Bryan Danielson on fire. Yeah,
one would assume this is probably ultimately going to build to a blood and guts cage match, with it being the JAS and the reunited Combat Club and Eddie Santana Ortiz in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. Heck, maybe Regal will be involved in some way.
It'll just be going blood and guts, and that'll be it.
Blood and guts.
It doesn't sound like War Games. It feels weird. Blood and guts. Blood. I don't know if it sounds like, chaps. I really don't. Side note. I think the most recent BotchaMania, and they have I think they're reading a page out of Regal's biography about the video game awards. And now him and Brian Pillman are supposed to be fighting on a stage, and it all goes horribly wrong. It's wonderful. Can't wait to watch the latest BotchaMania. It's fun. It's just hearing the story as it's being told with like the footage of the actual event. You're just going, oh fuck, this is weird. It's silly, but fun. And it's like, it just sounds like Regal. It's like the life of Regal would make a fascinating TV series or film, just for the daftness of it all.
So when it comes to AEW Dynamite happening tonight, as we're recording this for those watching and or listening after the fact, what do we have lined up for the show? As mentioned earlier, we have basically got MJF is going to be saying something on Dynamite. We've also got it confirmed that Daniel Garcia and John Moxley will be in a match, one-on-one. There is going to be what was originally announced as a 10-man tag, but is now going to be an 8-man tag by the sound of it. In fact, no, change that. 10-man tag once again, having just reloaded Tony Khan's Twitter.
Damn it.
It is going to be Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, Christian Cage, Darby Allin, and Matt Hardy. Did you get all that, everybody?
Yep.
Versus the Young Bucks, Red Dragon, and Hikuleo from New Japan Pro Wrestling, the American brand New Japan Strong, who we have seen before because he had an IWGP US title match against someone, if memory serves, on a Dynamite or a Rampage.
Just going to put it out there, I've just seen the power rankings, and Wardlow's number 1.
Oh, is he now?
Oh, yes.
Oh, well.
Wardlow's number 1. Wardlow's number 1 in contenders. Adam Cole is number 2. Hangman Page is 3. Moxie's 4. Jay Lethal is 5.
Oh, I guess Jay Lethal and Samoa Joe will probably carry on at some point as a feud because that's kind of just been paused for a little bit.
Have they done any? Just a side note, have they actually made any plans of what they're doing with ROH as a TV show or anything like that? Because it's just
the word going around from what I heard on. I can't remember where I heard or read it, but it seems like Tony Khan is currently trying to negotiate a 1-hour television deal for an ROH specific show, and apparently Colt Cabana has re-signed with AEW, but with it being earmarked that he will be more specifically part of the ROH side of things.
Right, okay.
So they are going to try and make ROH its own brand, but I guess it's kind of at the moment just still an extension of AEW because I think the women's title has been defended on a few dark episodes, as is the Pure Championship before Wheeler Yuta was in New Japan doing the best of the Super Juniors tournament. And one would assume that Joe will be defending the championship. And I assume Jonathan Gresham will defend the world title again when he is able to, because he's also been very absent in recent times. Since when he was lost on Battle of the Belt 2, I want to say? I didn't watch the show, Missy. I just vaguely remember the title match being on there. Also on the cards for Dynamite tonight, following the Owen Hart Foundation Women's Finals, 4 of the tournament's top wrestlers will go, quote-unquote, to war in a huge tag team match, because they're debuting in LA tonight, for those of you who don't know. So it's going to be Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter versus Toni Storm and Ruby Soho. That should be good fun. Also, I hadn't seen this have been announced. Also happening tonight, 6-man tag match. Max Caster of the Acclaimed and the Gun Club versus...
They were living it up in Las Vegas, by the way. They were living up in Las Vegas.
So good. Versus FTR and CM Punk. That trio, behave. Also announced, which this is literally in the past half an hour or so, Wardlow versus JD Drake in his first official match as a member of the AEW roster. And after earning his first AEW win last weekend, I don't know where, I'm assuming on Dark, Johnny Elite returns to Dynamite tonight, aiming to work his way to the top. For AEW's LA debut, hometown hero Johnny has signed an open contract to fight anyone in AEW. Who could he fight?
I mean, Miro could probably come back for a fun.
Oh, I miss Miro.
He's in. It was like people were going, "Where's Miro?" And he turns up in like a trailer for like a new like a TNT cop drama. It's like, oh, there he is.
As you do.
He's busy acting. Probably a step up from Showdown with Dolph Ziggler, where he played himself and held the gun. I think that's. I've not seen the film, but it's like it's a WWE film that just screams out fascination watch out of morbid curiosity.
So a quick other note as well, because I appreciate we're going to be starting to wrap up shortly. Yeah. You mentioned the power rankings there. Just to touch on the women's contenders now, the top 5 contenders in from 1 to 5, Nyla Rose, Britt Baker, Serena Deeb, Toni Storm, Chris Statlander.
I mean, we've already had Thunder versus... we've had Rosa versus Nyla. We've had... I mean, I wouldn't particularly want Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker again.
One assumes we'll be getting Statlander and Jade, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, possibly. It could be a bit interesting to see Tony Storm have a shot.
I agree completely.
Be fine. Or Deeb carries on. Or we have another match with Deeb. I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Which I ain't got any issue with whatsoever.
In terms of tag team champions, FTR is number 1, which is kind of, they are definitely taking the belts at some point this year, but I do not think it's going to be from Jungle Express. I think it will be from, it has to be from the Hill team, considering how the crowd are reacting to them right now. Powerhouse Hobbs and Starks at 4, and Keith Lee and Swerve at 5. Hardy's at 3, though you may need to rest Jeff for a little bit.
Jeffrey, please.
Jeff, do you want a match? No, I've done too much bopping.
But you know who's at number 2 though? Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley.
I mean, they could feasibly take the belts as well. I mean, it's just, I just think, I think it will be a heel team that takes it from Jurassic Express. I think just for how you could book FTR to win those belts and be like the ROH and AEW champions, because you could do a storyline there. They say the first tag team to win both the belts. I mean, they have a lot of belts already, but.
So it's interesting when it comes to the MJF segment because it specifically says we hear from MJF.
It might just be a backstage interview or something.
That's what I think it's going to be.
I don't think it's going to. I will be amazed if it's an in. If it's an in ring, then hopefully they've sorted something has been sorted. I can't imagine MJF's going to go out to the stage and. I mean, I could imagine an angry MJF going out and really opening dirty laundry in a ring. I could it's like that wouldn't happen. It's like no, MJF would do that. But
there's also the element of he did get stretchered out, and one would think. I'm thinking this from an AEW perspective. If someone's been stretchered out, one would think they would at least not be on the show there and then, as it were, for at least a week. So I imagine this is going to be either taped probably in the hours after the match, or he's going to be in a hospital bed with so many plaster casts and neck braces on him. It's going to look insane. Proper selling the fact he took 10 power bombs.
It'd be like a Batista after he lost the match and he just sat in the ring in a wheelchair and just went, I quit.
So good. Still one of the greatest promos ever. Actor
Dave Batista.
So before we begin to wrap up, good, so any additional sort of AEW related notes or anything in general that you wanted to touch on?
I think we've done a lot on AEW today. I think it's really good. We've had a really good show, a really nice, long, meaty show talking about AEW. We can quickly touch on WWE because this weekend we have both NXT in your house and we also have Hell in a Cell on Sunday, and we're going to be covering that in about 2 weeks in our next episode, which will be in 2 weeks.
Genuinely forgot Hell in a Cell was a thing this weekend.
I mean, to be honest, it seems to be more it seems to be worth investing a little bit more in this than, say, WrestleMania Backlash, for example.
Okay, so how's it shaping up then?
So we have a United States Championship match between Theory and Mustafa Ali.
I forgot he's not Austin anymore, is he? I keep forgetting that.
No, it's just Theory. Can't have people called Austin. It confuses Vince.
Why don't you call him A Theory? You can have so much good wordplay on that.
You could just call him All Day Theory because he was always doing the all day sort of stick. That can work. That can work. We have intergender trios match. We have Finn Balor, AJ Styles, and Liv Morgan versus the Judgment Day.
Should be good fun.
That'll be fun. Arguably one of the funnest things to watch at the moment. Kevin Owens will go one-on-one with Ezekiel. There is a wonderful Raw Talk video on YouTube from this week's Raw of Kevin Owens trying to explain to Kevin Patrick how Ezekiel could be Ezekiel but also Elias, and he gets cut off by Kevin Patrick saying, Kevin, I have to go back to the studio. I'm sorry, and Kevin is irate. We then cut a bit later on in the show to Becky Lynch having an interview with someone else, and Kevin Owens is just sulking in the background. He's going, why are you there, Kevin? Oh, it's like I was trying to explain my thing about Ezekiel to Kevin and to Fitzpatrick, and he just wouldn't listen to me. And then he tries to explain it again, and the interview goes, I don't understand you. And Becky goes, no, it's perfectly understandable. Ezekiel was probably born Ezekiel, but he must have had an older brother called Elias, and something must have happened to Elias when he was a child, because then he would change his name to be Elias and then reenact his view of Elias, and then he would become Ezekiel at some point. It's perfectly simple.
So Becky Lynch is leaning into this. Great.
Yeah, and it's just, you just watch the interview, his eyes just kind of go, what? And it's like arguably, it's like this has no right to be as interesting as it is, and it's mostly because of Owens and Ezekiel / Elias having really good character chemistry. That's the sort of
amazing
thing. We also have a handicap match. Bobby Lashley will take on Omos and MVP. So that'll be fun. Probably one of the big matches to look out for on the card. It's a triple threat for the Raw Women's Championship. It's Bianca Belair versus Asuka versus Becky Lynch. That should be a banger of a match.
That should be a good one.
And the main event, locked inside Hell in a Cell, is Cody Rhodes versus Seth freaking Rollins for the third time. I see Cody Rhodes beating Seth again to keep the Cody train going, full speed ahead.
A clean sweep.
And money again, get him on the Money in the Bank train, all that sort of stuff. I mean, to be perfectly honest, like, he's been really. I mean, there's the post of Hell in a Cell where it just looks like hell is just wafted from his backside when he's walking towards the camera. He's holding his coat out. And it's just kind of like he's given a camera stare of just like, it's like, yeah, I just farted. What about it? Sort of
what you gonna do?
But no, there was a really good segment on Raw on Monday where Rollins actually kind of, not by name, but obviously referenced AEW, saying, oh, you went away, you and your little friends tried to destroy the house that I built while you were away, and now you're coming back with your sledgehammers and you're going to try and bash on my throne, are you? All that sort of stuff. And they had
There's a couple of AEW references in there.
Yeah, a big pull apart brawl. I'm surprised there's not more matches in Hell in a Cell. There's usually at least 2. I don't know if anything's going to escalate on Friday to activate another Hell in a Cell match. I mean, out of any
it's a
of
great
them,
phrase to activate another Hell in a Cell match.
It's
I like
this.
that.
This match needs to be in Hell in a Cell.
Push the button.
Push the button. Put the cell down. Oh, probably what will happen is we'll probably get. You know, last year where we had Drew and Bobby in Hell in a Cell, and then because they had Hell in a Cell with Drew and Bobby on the pay-per-view or something like that, Fox went, we want a Hell in a Cell match. Give us a Hell in a Cell match.
And they moved the Mysterio one to SmackDown,
yeah,
didn't
they moved Ray and Roman to SmackDown. I can imagine that happening.
So, question, because obviously you're far more up to date than I am. What's the tag team title situation now? Because the belts have been unified. So what's going on with that?
So Usos are champs. They have both belts. It seems like RK Bros having a bit of a break because not on this week's Raw, but the Raw before that. Riddle kind of did like a promo, which was kind of indicating that Randy needs a lot of rest at the moment. He really spinging and that sort of thing. So he's gonna get payback on the bloodline and that his way and all that sort of stuff. So in terms of, I mean, the way a lot of the news sites have kind of predicting, I think over the summer we're going to probably see Riddle and possibly Orton challenge Reigns for the belts, and there is a strong possibility Drew is going to dethrone Roman in Wales, maybe for one of those belts. I mean, to be perfectly honest, that makes really good sense. I think that really encapsulates the Clash at the Castle, despite the fact the ticket prices are fucking insane.
The most expensively stupendous show in Welsh history.
It's like I looked at Ticketmaster and those prices were just silly. I get it's a big event. I get it. But it's kind of like when I explained, I shared my experiences and people going, oh, but it's just tickets start from 35. It's like, you show me on the Ticketmaster site where there's a £35 seat and I'll go, okay, I was wrong. No, you want to sit in the nosebleeds, it's £100+ at the moment.
The thing is, though, the other thing to emphasize, particularly for anyone listening from outside the UK, and forgive me if I've touched this before, Ian, feel free to cut me off. But it's the fact that there is a cost of living crisis in the UK. And it really seems that whoever was like the booking agent that was working with WWE to make this show possible clearly didn't give them the memo that you might want to lower the ticket prices by, say, like 50%. So people could actually probably go to Cardiff and get a ticket.
I mean, I would say if 50 was like the lowest, I'd say that's fine. It's like, it's annoying, but you know what? This is a big, they are clearly treating this as a big premium live event thing. So I kind of get it. I
think Meltzer said they want this to be the biggest WWE gate in UK history.
It's currently on track to be the biggest gate for any WWE event outside of WrestleMania. Which is great on one side, but also it's like, yeah, the reason it's going to be the biggest gate is because the tickets are so bloody expensive. But
so the other counterpoint to this, and I won't delay this much longer because I appreciate what it costs soon, but it's the fact, and I'm going to use this as against WWE now. The fact of the matter is, I can watch this show for a tenner.
Yep.
Literally. And I hate to put it this way, I could probably have a far better viewing experience watching it for a tenner. Having been to a number of wrestling shows in my life, we've been to some as well where we've had vastly different experiences watching wrestling, quite frankly. And it doesn't take much for your experience to be hampered because of other people around you. I would probably be quite happy to go to Cardiff, maybe go and do some of the things that may be happening around this event on the weekend, and just watching this in a pub. Have like a pub lunch, be with a few mates, have a laugh. It would probably be far more enjoyable, quite frankly, in some ways, watching it in that way.
I think there was another thing of there being massive traffic jams for Principality trying to get into Wales the other day for an Ed Sheeran concert. So there's also that. So I'm also thinking, well, don't have to deal with traffic. Don't really. It's like my current thing is I will probably watch at home. I might have a few friends around. Yeah, and we might just have a little bit of a laugh, enjoy it. The nice thing is it's going to be like probably late afternoon start, maybe like 4 or 5, which will be good.
It won't be finishing at nearly 6 a.m.
If it's a 12-hour show, Jeremy, something's gone seriously wrong with the planning of this event.
Mate, the WrestleMania that I went to started at 2 in the afternoon for the pre-show. It finished at gone midnight, and I didn't see the main event because I knew the last train back to Central New York was gonna leave. So I missed Becky Lynch becoming Becky Two Belts because I didn't want to get stuck in a torrential rainstorm, and I got on the last train. I heard the match end. I heard it. I saw the fireworks display, and I heard her music go off and all the ridiculous amount of lights, and also saw people rapidly running down the staircases inside the stadium.
So quick, run!
Literally, in hindsight, I wish I'd have taken a video of it because it's a sight to behold. But with that being said, everybody, I think we are going to bring this show to a close for today. Thank you very much for watching and or listening. Don't forget that if you do want to check out the audio-only version of the podcast, you can find us on the likes of Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. You think of a podcast provider? We are more than likely there. Simply search for BunkaMania. Why not tell a friend and or leave a review if you would like to? If you've enjoyed what you have been watching here on YouTube today, you can also subscribe to this channel, that being Bunkazilla UK. Then you could be notified and kept up to date on future broadcasts we'll be doing, including our next episode of BunkaMania, which will be on June the 15th. When we'll be talking about Hell in a Cell. I think you've told me there's an NXT show going on because that's how out of the loop I am at the moment.
I didn't realize there was one as well. So it's like, NXT, fine. But that one's at the Capital Wrestling Center. It's not at the same venue as Hell in a Cell, which is a bit sucky, but oh well.
But there we go. And good sir, if people want to find us on the social medias, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, they can follow us by following us with the words Bunkazilla UK on Facebook or Twitter. That's all good. But if they want to drop us an email about wrestling stuff, you can do. Just fling an email over to bunkamania@bunkazilla.co.uk. We'd love to read some emails out on the show next time. So please do send us a line. Watch Hell in a Cell, like it, hate it, send over. Even if you want to talk about potential booking ideas or something like that, do it. We'd like to hear from you guys. It'll be great.
Should Eddie Kingston dethrone CM Punk? I put that to you people. Enjoying the show.
Well, that's a heel move, Jeremy.
I mean,
yes, you people.
I mean, I say it in a loving way.
That did not sound loving.
I'm tired.
That sound. It's like I'm tired. That was You're right. I'm tired. It's like you might be right, Ian.
How do I acknowledge your statement without acknowledging your statement?
I'm tired.
But folks, it has been great fun today. Hope you enjoyed the show. From myself, Jeremy Graves, from him, the Dekker Dane, Mr. Iain Boulton. You've been listening to BunkaMania here on Bunkazilla UK. Until June the 15th, when we'll be back live on YouTube at 8 p.m. Take care and speak to you soon.
Adios.